Hello, everyone. This is JPO, and today I'm joined with
Jay.
And
and
Christopher.
and we're podcast name in brackets. Anyway, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Excited to talk about these 2006 movies.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're back again for our monthly series. Again, we do our top five of each year, and for this month we're doing 2006. Yeah, 2006. I don't attribute 2006 to cinema as I did with like previous years. I don't have like the strong emotional connections to this year as I did other years. I guess this year I was mostly just constantly rewatching what came out the previous year, and so this year was just kind of left out into the wind. Just like, yeah, let me uh, watch these Bionicle films, play with the toys, rewatch all the Star Wars films, and play with the toys. That was my time in 2006. So, yeah, I don't remember my time in the cinema. But, Jay, what did you tell us about our box office of this year?
Yeah, this is an interesting top 10. We're definitely continuing to see the trend of sequels, franchise movies. I believe every film in this top 10 here is either a sequel or will go on to have a sequel. Um, in terms of wholly original, actually, I don't know if these are based on any other properties, but The Night at the Museum, the first movie, made it into the top five here. And then George Miller of Mad Max, his Happy Feet animated film, making it in here. And then also Pixar's Cars. I forgot, but that is also technically original. We have Daniel Craig with the James Bond reboot Casino Royale. This is his first time in the role. Obviously, goes on to have a few sequels there. Superman Returns, the legacy sequel to the Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Um, Also, the number two movie is The Da Vinci Code, kind of standing out here as more of like a drama thriller. Everything else in the top 10 is more action,
Mm-hmm.
fantasy, sci fi, or kids animated stuff. Obviously, Ice Age continuing to be very successful. But yeah, interesting franchises making their stads here in the top 10. And yeah, for best picture, this is actually a pretty solid lineup. Four of the five movies are in my top like 15 for the year this year. Um they won't all be, I won't be talking about them all, but we have Babel, The Departed, which is the eventual winner, Letters from Iwo Jima, Little Miss Sunshine, and The Queen. And Letters from Iwo Jima is actually one of the few films not in the English language to have been nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It's a Japanese language film directed by Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
It's it is it's a companion film to his film Flags of Our Fathers, and where Flags of Our Fathers is about the raising of the American flag on Iwo Jima, this very famous image, and sort of the context around that. And then this film was made for a little less money. At the basically the same time they went from production on one directly into production on the other, and is about the Japanese perspective on the Battle of Iwo Jima. So yeah, kind of fascinating that it ended up actually being the more successful of the two, both financially and awards wise, even though it was the lower budget, kind of lower priority one. And just kind of weird that one of the best picture nominees to not be in the English language was directed by Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. I wonder how that turns out. I'll have to see it at some point
It's
then.
yeah, it is very very good. I definitely preferred it to Flags of Our Fathers.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not a huge war movie person either, so but yeah, then the Palme d'Or winner is The Wind That Shakes the Barley, starring Killian Murphy, and the um, Razzie Worst Picture winner is that, I think that's, oh yeah, Basic Instinct 2. I should have written that down. I have not seen or even heard of that one.
All
So
right.
yeah, interesting
Well,
year.
yeah. Why don't we get starting with our list here, starting with our number five?
Yeah, so my number 5 is Perfume, The Story of a Murderer. This is directed by German director Tom Tykwer. It's an English language film, though, based on the novel by Patrick Suskind, and it's starring Ben Whishaw, Alan Rickman, Dustin Hoffman, and Rachel Hurd Wood. It's about a tanner in 18th century Paris with an unusually sensitive sense of smell, and he becomes a perfumer and is obsessed with preserving scents and eventually starts murdering women to use in his perfumes. So, yeah, Perfume, Story of a Murderer. The title says it all. This is a very interesting, it's almost like magical realism the way it works and the way it's narrated. There's kind of these fairy tale qualities that reminded me a little bit of like Guillermo del Toro's work, a little bit more grounded. In this one, the most sort of fantastical thing is this central character's sense of smell that is sort of this supernatural type ability. But the narration by John Hurt just kind of adds this extra level of not whimsy in the like happy sense, but sort of dark whimsical, which I just found very interesting. It has incredible production design, incredible cinematography, lots of very interesting characters. Obviously, you have the central murderer figure, but then there's people around him that are very interesting. Lots of phenomenal performances. Ben Whishaw, obviously, Alan Rickman, Dustin Hoffman. I know his personal life a little complicated, but he's incredible here. Um, and yeah, it's a film about obsession and beauty and art and the role of an artist in their own work and sort of this dark rumination on the creative process in a way that I found very interesting. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this film.
Yeah, you were my introduction to it.
Well, I'm gonna have to state this again here. A lot of films on your guys' list that I've never seen or heard of, so you know me.
John,
I am,
you have seen a more obscure Tom Tykwer film, which is A Hologram for the King. That's the same director.
yeah. Well, that one has Tom Hanks in it, so
Yep, yeah. Yeah. Also, the director, probably more notably, of Run Lola Run and a third or half of Cloud Atlas. I forget which half he was in charge of, but yeah,
Well,
very
John, are
very
you
good
going to add it
director.
to your watch list?
no.
Probably, I don't think you would enjoy this one, John. Maybe you would. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think it's a little too odd for you.
sure. We won't see because I won't be seeing it. Anyway, Christopher, tell us what you've seen.
Um, this next movie, or my first movie on that we're talking about, but next that we're talking about, anyways,
Mhm.
we get the point.
Yeah.
Is called Muksin. Um, uh, spelled Mukhsin. Um, just it's I forget where it's from. I think sorry, let me look it up just real quickly. It's from Malaysia. Yeah. So if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. It's a Malaysian film um about a 12-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl, and kind of it's a very like one of those very slice of life kind of just stories, and you kind of just see like them meet and relationship that is definitely more bent to friendship, but also they're young and it's a little, just a little confusing because it's hard to define things. And so, in some ways, they definitely impacted each other romantically, but they're young and it's not necessarily like defined kind of thing. Um, it's very solid. I will say, when I watched it, I wasn't fully ready for it. Like I knew what I was getting myself into, but I think I was just very antsy that day, and I kind of struggled this past month, like uh, taking time. to watch movies at home. Because my work schedule is different. I took the liberty of like going to the movie theater more often because that won't happen as much in a month. So I was kind of just going a lot, and so at home I was not locking in as hard, and then also work's been busy. So and it was a snow day, and as much as I should have been relaxed, like I was also like on the edge, like, am I going to work? Am I not? So it was just a little weird all around. Um, so it was not the best, personally, not the best experience. I hope to experience it again better in the future. But at the same time, even sometimes a movie that you watch wrongly, you can still notice like, ah, that's a good movie, kind of thing. I remember when we talked about our 2024 list, one of my favorite movies was The Parades, which the first time I watched it, I kind of dozed off, but then I rewatched it, and I felt exactly the same, just as positive about it. I was like, okay, I'm not that wrong, and I think going off that, thinking about this movie, I don't feel like I'm wrong. I think this is a really solid movie. Obviously, it's more for those who could enjoy like this kind of like slice of life, little like quiet, slow kind of movie. This is actually part of a trilogy,
Oh,
which I was aware of. But shockingly, Mookskin was on Netflix, which kind of blew me away. Like I did not expect such, an older international picture that, even on Letterbox isn't, very, not a lot of people have logged it. So I was surprised to see on Netflix. I could not, like, within the streaming services I had, could not find the other two. The other two happened later in the main girl's life, but they were released not in order. I think Muskin was the last one released in quote trilogy. I or second, I don't know. I don't necessarily know how necessary the viewing order is. I thought that was interesting. Um, Especially if this is the last one released in chronologically in said trilogy, it would be very interesting to like rewatch these in the future, to watch the first and second, and then this one. Um, this one being the one that I had seen, and then watching it kind of last. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like one of those movies that kind of like fascinates you a little bit, even though it's kind of simple. Um, yeah, Yeah, I don't know. I feel very jumbled
yeah.
about it, but I'm probably gonna act very jumbled about a lot of movies I'm gonna talk about. If I'm being honest today, I apologize. I really do.
Oh no,
Um,
that's completely fine. Yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting. I am on Letterbox looking at this. I don't know date wise how it all works out, but the first one in this trilogy did come out in 2004, and then the other one also came out in 2006.
yeah.
So
I
they're
think
being
I was
released at about
looking.
the same time.
Yeah, I think I was looking at when you go to the releases tab. It seems
Oh,
like
okay.
the other one released theatrically in Malaysia in 2006, and this one theatrically in Malaysia in 2007.
Okay.
I think I might be wrong, but I think I saw that.
Yeah. It looks like they all have very different vibes, at least from the posters. So
Yeah,
that does make me curious to look into if that is a trilogy worth getting
yeah.
invested in.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I think at the end of the day, um, yeah, 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 it's one of those movies I'm fascinated by. I know I just said that, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know me, I've not seen or heard of this one. Shocker.
I mean this one I wouldn't like. Yeah, I don't. Well, honestly, like having Letterbox like pro slash patron, like honestly with those like features to see like what's on my streaming services, and
Yeah.
sorting by like ratings or other things has really helped me like discover certain movies. So honestly, I significantly credit Letterbox for helping me find that film specifically, if not many of the films in general that I've been talking about lately. Since I got it, I think I got it late November. So yeah, it's been really cool. Like Netflix, I'm sorry, Letterboxd being such a tool in like discovering these movies.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to my number 5 is the film Nacho Libre. All right, so yeah, this one it's kind of like a joke entry, but it's one that I'm very nostalgic for. So, little backstory about this: my mom, she grew up in Mexico. Me, I grew up before I met you, Jay, in Paraguay. And the way this film, Nacho Libre, which is set in Mexico, depicts the everything was just very, I guess, nostalgic. It like felt like the land and everything felt on point. And so we really vibed with the comedy, the over the top acting, Jack Black doing what he is. There's just the funny story of like this, I guess, cleric from the church just wants to be like a luchador secretly. Is I guess a funny concept, but no, everything was enjoyable. There's just so many quotable lines. I think uh, I think a lot of like rednecks like this one as well. I can't quote you on that, but again, a certain demographic really likes this one, and I agree with it. I enjoyed it as well. So yeah,
Yeah, you showed this one to me and a few other
I,
people
did
at
I?
some point.
I
Yeah.
okay.
I don't remember the exact context. But yeah, no, I definitely growing up heard a lot about this. Didn't really watch it until I watched it with you. Not necessarily my favorite, but I don't really remember what I think part of it is just that style of comedy doesn't always
It
work
is.
well for me.
Yeah,
So
it's also like very childish at times. Um, but I can for it I think the style
yeah.
works for that comedy.
I think if I had seen it when I was younger, I would feel differently about it.
Oh sure, yeah.
Uh,
How
uh,
about you?
yeah, it feels like Jacob's a little more positive than I am. So I don't
I
feel
honestly don't remember. So
okay. Well, if Jacob's more in this like indifferent middle, I trend a little more negative. I first saw it for my first time a year and a half ago, a year ago. Don't exactly remember. It didn't really work for me. My roommate, he grew up with it, and so he wanted to see it because, especially, I hadn't seen it. So we watched it since he had seen it so many times. He didn't really laugh, and I kind of struggled to find the humor out of it. I can see the ridiculousness, but not necessarily so much that it brought me to laugh for laughter that much. Maybe one or two times. Um, like I was maybe more amused at certain moments. Um, but regardless, like it, I don't know. And then I remember like saying at the end, like, "Oh, wasn't that funny?" He was like, "Yes, it is." I'm like, "Well, you didn't really laugh." He's like, "I've seen it a bunch of times." Like, I'm like, "Well, screw you. Maybe you should have laughed, and maybe I would have thought it was funny." So I don't know. I maybe I'm willing to give this a shot again in the future. I feel like at that point, be more with a crowd that would laugh at it, but also with a crowd who's seen it before also might not laugh at it. So I don't know if I can win. So I don't hate this movie. It just didn't work for me. Also, maybe I'm not that familiar with Jack Black enough for me to find him funny. Say if it was like Will Ferrell, probably would have found this a lot funnier because I'm more used to his style of comedy and I know his little quirks that make me laugh. I'm not necessarily at that level with Jack Black.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. Especially with comedy actors, you kind of need to be on the right wavelength with their style. And I'm definitely similar with Jack Black. I'm not always on his wavelength. Um, I do also want to point out the director of this, Jared Hess, is of course well known for directing Napoleon Dynamite. He's also
Mm.
directing the upcoming Minecraft movie.
Oh,
We're so back.
just wanted to. I was just on Letterboxd, and yeah, I had forgotten that this was the same director. So
So I
it's
think we
something
can
to look
only
forward to.
expect peak. Everyone who's like the Minecraft movie's gonna be bad, you're wrong. If you like those two movies, you're gonna love the Minecraft movie.
uh,
I don't
I
know
think
if I'm gonna eat my words or not.
I think the Minecraft movie is going to make $1 billion, and the people who like the Mario movie, that demographic is going to love the Minecraft movie. That is my prediction. uh, it's going to be the second highest grossing film, actually maybe third with Avatar. We'll see.
I mean, if Minecraft is one of the highest grossing video games of all time, then who knows? Logically, it would make sense that the
Yep.
film could do well enough.
I think the response every time I have been in theaters and seen the trailer, the response I hear, especially from kids, is very positive. So for
Yeah,
anyone who is very online and predicting that it will do poorly because the online response has been bad, there's a lot of people who are very much looking forward to this.
yeah,
Anyway,
no,
that's not the conversation for the
yeah.
top 5 of 2006 podcast.
Why do we move on then? Yes.
Yeah. My number 4 is this one wasn't. I was struggling with whether I would put this one on my list or not, just because I love it, but it's been several years since I've seen it, and I don't know how I will feel rewatching it. But this is The Fountain, directed by Darren Aronofsky, starring Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz, and Ellen Burstyn, and it follows 3 parallel storylines. Speaking of Cloud Atlas, it's kind of similar structurally to that. And there's the 3 storylines are a conquistador looking for the Tree of Life in the conquistador times. I don't remember exactly what that is. A Spanish conquistador, a doctor trying to cure his wife's terminal illness, and a space traveler transporting a dying tree to a faraway nebula. And they're sort of cutting between them. And Hugh Jackman plays the main person in all 3, and Rachel Weisz is showing up in all 3 as sort of the object of Hugh Jackman's desire. And yeah, it's this big sweeping story about love, grief, and learning to come to terms with death. I first saw this in high school, and the themes really resonated with me. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm not sure if that's one of those things that I'll look back at and be like, oh, it wasn't as deep as I was thinking it was, or if I'll revisit it and be like, oh no, this really worked. Um, this is like a famous box office bomb. It didn't cost that much, and it actually looks really good for being a relatively small budget film. But even with, I think it was $35 million budget, it didn't make that back. Um, was sort of mixed received by critics at the time. But yeah, it is incredibly gorgeous. The visuals, there's like this, the color palette of it like favors these gold colors and these oranges. That's just very, very pretty. And then the musical score by Clint Mansell is one of the greatest of all times. There's a couple tracks that are just really, really phenomenal. And I think they'll even like occasionally show up in trailers for other movies. Like they're
Oh,
so
wow.
good that they get used for trailer music, which is pretty high praise for this kind of movie. So yeah.
Well, you had me at Darren Aronofsky.
This is definitely his strangest, just in terms of the way it feels very different from a lot of the other things he's made. It got an R rating, and then the R rating was changed to a PG-13
Interesting.
because it's not. Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole like thing behind that, but the MPAA was like, actually no, this isn't like intense enough for the R rating. Yeah,
Well,
nothing like Black Swan or um, Requiem for a Dream, but also just very odd. I yeah.
well, you know me. I have not seen or heard this one, so I can't comment on that. All right, Christopher.
Oh, Once in the Summer. Oh, what do I say about this? I watched this like some months ago, and I really don't know what to say much about this movie. I feel like I'm just gonna say it all the time, especially this one. Um, I think I wasn't the most like caught up with this movie, but it still like fascinated me at the same time. I don't I don't know. It's interesting for sure. Anyways, but the reason why
Oh,
I the reason why I have spotlighted this movie is it introduced me to something that I absolutely love. Um, like it's a Korean movie, right? And it plays a song, an American song, that I had never heard before, um, called "Yesterday When I Was Young" by Roy Clark. Um, and that song just haunted me. Um, and yeah, I don't know when the song released. Obviously, before 2006, it definitely uh, is semi older, but like I'd never heard the artist or the song before. And yeah, after watching the movie,
1972.
1972, dang, yeah. And that song I just couldn't stop listening to that song, and I still put it on occasionally. So yeah, it feels a little weird to include a movie for a song, but at the same time, still, it is a movie that kind of like fascinates me in a interesting way. Yeah, I wish I had more to say about the movie. I really don't. Um, yeah, but it's an interesting movie regardless. Like if you're into um, Korean movies or romance movies, or I think like it's I, it's technically I think even um, historical fiction. Like I don't think the characters are based on any existing people, but just the time frame of when it was. Um, it might be the 70s, honestly. Um, yeah, so if you're into that, uh, I think things. Some things are worth a watch, even if they aren't. Oh my gosh, I love this movie. Yeah, I wish I had more to say. I really don't. I apologize.
Yeah, I discover a lot of music through movies, so I definitely understand that,
Hmm,
finding a song and having that resonate, even if the movie doesn't fully resonate, finding something through the movie.
yeah. Honestly, for me, I guess I don't often like takeaway songs from movies, so I think this was especially like surprising for me.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so it definitely plays like during the movie, but then also like in the end credits, it just like hit me like a bomb.
you know me. I haven't seen it, but I do recognize an actor from Squid Game here. So,
oh
ooh,
nice.
yes,
Oh,
Yeah,
that's where
so
I was recognizing that face. Okay.
yeah,
yeah.
so if you're an actor completionist, you know what to do.
Oh no, no. That actor's in a lot of stuff. I don't know. Moving on. Moving on to my number four. It's an anime film called "The Girl Who Leapt Through Time." Now, uh, I I really like time travel stories, and this is like up my alley of stuff. So, it's this girl who uh, gets this thing that allows her to turn back time whenever she like jumps, leaps in the air and such. And it's less about the actual time travel technology, but more so how the girl uses her time. So she relives the same day because like she's trying to avoid like dealing with like emotions of a teenager, like, oh, I don't want this person to confess their love to me because it'll change our relationship, or oh, I actually like someone else, or oh no, somebody's gonna be killed in a train crash. Let me try and fix all this. So it's just this story, and the theme of the story is in the subtitle, and one of these images here is that time waits for no one, so you should use the best of the time you have. So I thought that this film did a really solid job on what it was trying to do, and I enjoyed it as just a simple slice of life thing with a little bit of time travel shenanigans. So yeah.
Yeah, this is Mamoru Hosoda. I had to look that up. And I've seen several of his other films, but I haven't seen this one. I have heard of it though. And it's definitely one that I will eventually check out. I think this is probably his most well known. I guess maybe Belle is more well known since that's a little more recent.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one that I have heard of. Also, did my sister would want me to mention Summer Wars because she loves that one, and I've also seen Mirai because that was an Academy Award nomination or
Hmm.
nominated film, and Wolf Children. Any of those titles mean anything to anyone?
Yeah. I
Yeah, I've
assume you've
heard of
not
it,
seen it.
haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on.
Yeah, my number three is a little movie called Pan's Labyrinth, of course, directed by Guillermo del Toro and starring Ivana Baquero, Sergi Lopez, Maribel Verdú, and Doug Jones. And it follows a young girl and who moves with her pregnant mother to live with the girl's stepfather, who is a Spanish captain hunting down rebels during the Spanish Civil War. There are sympathizers with the rebels who are working on the undercover in the staff of the captain's house to try and undermine his work. And meanwhile, the young girl encounters a faun who tells her that she's actually a magical princess and will have to complete 3 trials to reclaim her place. And yeah, this is probably Del Toro's masterpiece, at least thus far. It isn't my favorite of his, but it is undeniably just like everything that makes Del Toro great is in this film. Um, it's this dark fairy tale mixed with a war drama, and the two halves of the stories are very much commenting on each other and adding to each other as this young girl is trying to understand the world around her and also going on this adventure. And the adventure has like metaphors that then tie back into what's going on. But then it is also like more focused than I expected when I first watched it on the war effort and these rebels who are trying to survive. And this or not general, he's a captain who's very tyrannical and yeah, in the Del Toro way, it's the biggest monsters are the human characters. Um, if you want to know what makes Guillermo del Toro such a great filmmaker, this is the film to watch. This is everything that he is great at, just distilled into one film. And yeah, just very again, it's a dark fairy tale. It is creepy. Um, the pale man figure is probably the visual everyone knows from this. The guy with
Oh
the
yeah.
eyes on his hands.
Yeah.
Very creepy image, but a very,
Mm.
very good film.
Right up John's alley.
Yeah. This is one I've actually heard of. Like, if you know anything about Guillermo del Toro, this is like one of the things that you will know. I've
Yeah.
just, I've never seen it, and I've never really had the strong connection to see it because, like, every thing I've seen from it just looks a little too spooky. um, I might actually enjoy it if I do see it, but it's like,
Yeah. I think if you did watch it, you would find a lot to enjoy in it. Even just like the visuals and the designs. Doug Jones plays the fawn and the pale man, and the makeup work and
yeah,
performance is just so good. I mean,
he's
that's what Doug
such
Jones is good at.
he's such like an underappreciated legend at these
Yeah,
type of
no,
things.
he is phenomenal, and this is some of his best work. I mean, he always does great work with Guillermo del Toro, so yeah,
Mm.
we're definitely worth checking out if any of this sounds interesting to you.
Yeah. It's in my watch list.
All right.
Oh. Um Stranger Than Fiction stars Will Ferrell, so obviously we kind of briefly mentioned earlier. I like Will Ferrell, so Will Ferrell is probably just going to work for me in a general sense. But this is actually not a standard Will Ferrell comedy. This is actually a more serious movie. Obviously, because it's Will Ferrell, there are some Will Ferrell isms, but um, yeah, I enjoyed this movie. It's uh, the concept of the movie is a character is in someone's book, and all of a sudden he hears the narration of the book, and then he hears that he's going to die, and so then he kind of like freaks out and wants to like prevent his death, basically. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed it. I know, like looking at like it's not necessarily like the most amazing thing I've ever seen, but it was still an enjoyable ride. So I enjoyed it for what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard the title, but I'd never heard much about this film. But hearing that it has those sort of meta elements definitely makes me curious to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever heard the title not as a movie title, but like as like a term phrase, like this thing is Stranger Than Fiction. Um, I'd always been curious, like I wonder what that thing comes from. It's like it's from a film, or at least the film is making use of that thing. So yeah, I
Yeah,
might have to check it out one day because of something else.
because of Will Ferrell.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay, okay.
Don't worry about it.
No, that's the only thing I'm going to be worried about the rest of this episode.
I will tell you later.
Okay.
I know this sounds very ominous, but it's just really. Don't worry, it's something stupid. Don't
Oh
worry
yeah,
about it.
no, I figure.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Moving on to my number 3. It is the film Mission Impossible 3. Uh, this is the one that's directed by J.J. Abrams. I believe it's his first theatrical film, a huge big budget film. And yeah, this is the film that kind of no, that pretty much like revitalized the franchise. The first film was kind of like, that like big movie remake of an old TV show. The second film was just like a very early 2000s action film. You got John Woo, uh all the stupid
The dubs,
with the
the
dubs,
dubs are
the
flying.
action, uh, all the like James Bond isms that you don't love, but those are the things that happen in the film. Not really loved by many of the fans of this franchise, but it is a film. And then there's this film that really revitalized the franchise into what eventually comes up into the rest of the films. And yeah, it's my personal favorite one. It's it's actually less of a Mission Impossible film as the rest of the ones, because this one's more about the character's personal thing. It's its most personal film until several films later where they revisit this film again for like drama and action, and those are all very good. But this is the one that I like the most. Um, usually these films have like one giant stunt that they often like to advertise the film on. This one doesn't quite have that. They do have like a stunt, but the thing I like about this film that the other films usually don't focus on is that this one has a lot of like the smaller spy gadget stuff. It does a
Oh,
lot of the small stuff really well, just like him breaking into the Vatican, of like climbing the wall, getting the security camera footage thing, going down the wall, dressing up as a monk, getting the person's face, doing the voice, doing a bunch of really small things that you kind of just overlook in the other films that this one took the time to like focus on, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, again, this one is my favorite of the franchise, uh, and it did launch all the other films to be really solid films. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
This is the one Mission Impossible movie that I have not seen.
Interesting.
I was going to watch it in preparation for this, but ended up running out of time. Just overcommitted to the number of movies I was going to watch for this podcast. I have the Blu-ray, and I will get around to it eventually, probably before the Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Part 2 comes out. Actually, no, they aren't releasing Part 2 of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I don't know what's. They're just moving on to a
The
completely
Final
different
Reckoning.
one. The Final Reckoning. What happened to Part 2?
Well, yeah,
Whatever.
they even they renamed the part 1 into just Dead Reckoning.
I do know that they did rename that, but no,
Yeah.
But like,
I think it's funnier to just feign ignorance and like, but what happened to Part 2?
I think it's
Honestly.
also funny that I think in some of the early physical releases it does say part 1 or something, or maybe there was like the early digital releases it still said
Yeah.
part 1. So
If that would be fun to own a copy. Anyway, Mission Impossible. I will get around to this one eventually. I hear it is one of the better ones in the franchise. So, yeah.
although I don't know, half the audience says it's maybe a little boring. I don't know. I don't know if I
Okay.
agree with them.
I can do boring. I don't. I didn't love Dead Reckoning Part 1. So, also, I have seen, yes, the Blu-ray release does still say Part 1, available
Nice.
on Amazon right now for $10, 2 left in stock.
Nice.
Nice.
I think I know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not seen this, but I'll just insert a couple little thoughts. I actually thought about watching this. So I went ahead and watched the first Mission Impossible for my first time last week, which I did enjoy. And I think partially what's also intriguing me about this upcoming Mission Impossible movie is that it has Tremel Tillman of Severance fame.
Oh,
And I really love that actor, so intrigued to see him in that next one. Also, another little side note: apparently, there was a movie that released this year called Severance. I think kind of like a horror movie. I thought about seeing that for the fun of it, just because I mean I love the show and I know it's not related to the show at all, but thought it'd be fun. Um, yeah, sorry, just a few thoughts that this movie made me think of. But yeah, hope to get around to this soon.
yeah. Same for me. I do hope to get around to it soon.
So why don't we move on to our number 2s?
Yeah. So my number 2 is a little movie called The Prestige, of course, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, and Michael Caine. Um, John and I did a full episode on this, so I'll keep my thoughts short here. But this is probably my second favorite Christopher Nolan film after Interstellar. This is just the perfect twist story. It's very surprising the first time you see it, but it's also incredibly rewarding on rewatch as you're seeing the story unfold and you're peeling back all of the different layers. Like it works, arguably, it works better once you know what's going on than just the first time around when you're seeing everything for the first time. It still works incredibly well on the first time around, though. The first time I watched it, I had borrowed it from the library. I was at my grandparents' house and I was in the basement and I watched it the first time. The credits start rolling. Immediately, I'm like, I take it out of the player, bring it upstairs, and I'm like to my grandparents and sister, you need to watch this. And immediately watched it again. I never do that with movies. This is the
Wow.
only movie I have ever immediately rewatched after watching it for the first time.
Wow.
It is, yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Go listen to our binging Barbie episode on this one. The thing that I basically say about this one, it's a very good Nolan film that for some reason I often forget exists, and then I rewatch it. And I'm like, man, this is like top tier Nolan. How do I keep forgetting how peak this film is? Um, I'm just now remembering like my origins of this film is that apparently I didn't actually watch this film when it came out, but I was on an airplane one time, and this is like the film that they were playing on the airplane. I didn't actually watch it, but I glance over and like see some interesting images, like the Tesla light bulbs scene of the field.
Yes.
Like that's one thing I vividly remember. It's like, huh, that's an interesting looking thing. I wonder what that film is. I don't know. I guess I'll find out like 10 years later when I hear about it again in class, and it's like, oh yeah, that's the film I was thinking about. Okay, guess I'll watch that. Yep, very good. How about you, Christopher?
This is the only Nolan movie I've not seen. I've
Cool.
just
Oh,
not gotten around to it. So hopefully one day I'll watch it soon. Uh, it legitimately I feel like is one of those movies that I cannot believe I still haven't seen yet, and yeah, I just still haven't seen it yet. I also regret the fact that in this episode we're talking about these movies, and this one that I probably should have seen, I have no words on, so I apologize.
oh no, this is I completely understand not getting around. I mean, I didn't see the Mission Impossible movie before this, so and I have seen all of the other ones. So I think it's almost the same. Actually, no, Christopher Nolan, it's 12 films, not 8. I guess I haven't seen the new Mission Impossible yet either, but that is it out. Anyway,
Anyway, moving on.
um, my number two is Bong Joon Ho's The Host. I definitely well known enough of his movies before Parasite. Because I feel like seeing some things that talk about Bong Joon Ho, it feels like it only references like Memories of Murder and The Host before Parasite came out. Um, but yeah, really solid monster film. I think I saw this pretty soon after seeing Godzilla minus one. So
oh
it's definitely kind of interesting seeing some I dare I say similarities? Not really. But it's just the fact to see like kind of two monster movies as they're related to the human lives um, on display, somewhat back to back. So yeah, a solid movie. Um, really like it, and of course excited for Mickey 17 in a few weeks. Finally,
yeah, I have my tickets finally.
me too.
I'm worried. Are they gonna delay it again? Oh yeah, this is I don't know. I went into this one. Um, so my Bong Joon Ho story is I watched Snowpiercer just like on Netflix randomly at one point. But then when Okja came out, I like watched that the day it premiered on Netflix and
Oh
loved it,
wow.
and was like, okay, this is a director I am very interested in. So then when Parasite was coming out of Cannes and was getting a lot of buzz, and I was hearing, oh, this is the director of Okja, I can't wait to see this. And then building up throughout the year, obviously I was hearing more and more about this director and about his career in Korea, um, and kept hearing about The Host and how it's his best movie at that point. Parasite hadn't come out, um, but no, this is the one. This is the one to see. So I think it kind of got built up for me a little bit too much that when I finally got around to watching it, I was like, okay, sure, I guess this is pretty good, but it didn't really bowl me over the way I was hoping. Um, and then I watched all of his other films, so I do want to go back and rewatch this, having now seen everything else he's made and having more context and having a little bit more managed expectations to maybe see why everyone else loves it so much, whereas I didn't love it on the first watch as much as I was hoping to. Um, but yeah, no, this is definitely, if people are looking for something similar to Godzilla minus one, just in terms of how it emotionally invests in the characters, this is definitely the one to watch.
Do you feel like it was maybe a Train to Busan situation where Train to Busan felt unique in the genre and it stood out for in that way?
I haven't seen Train to Busan, so
Okay.
I hear it's a Uh, what did you think it was, John?
I thought it was a historical nonfiction natural
Yes.
disaster film.
Yes, I am very much looking forward to the historical nonfiction natural disaster film Train to Busan for when I get around to seeing that one. But no, yeah, it's I do think it is like a very because it is blending genres in that way that Bong Joon Ho does of like it's a monster movie and it's scary, but it's also like funny and also sad. Um, so yeah, I don't know why I didn't quite connect with it at the time,
Mhm.
but I do want to rewatch it and give it another shot.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting. Just for me, after seeing Barking Dogs Never Bite, I feel like really helped me understand Bong Joon Ho's sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that was like the last one of his movies I watched. So I'd be really curious to like rewatch all his movies with that mindset. Because like in Memories of Murder, and The Host, both of those movies, there are moments of like, wait, should I be laughing? And the answer is yes,
yeah.
yes. He has a dark sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Also, I gotta say, Song Kang Ho, one of my favorite actors, and he's in this movie. So yeah, love
Yeah.
him.
And Beiduna, speaking of Cloud Atlas, which has now come up a couple of times on this episode.
What
This was a film that you recommended to me, Christopher.
I did.
Yeah, you did. You sold it to me as like a monster film, and so when I watched it, uh, let's see, I liked the first third of this film because that was like the classical monster movie thing where it's like, the monster's on a rampage, people were freaking out, all this, we gotta save the child type thing. And then then like the rest of the film happens and it just slows down and it's just wasn't as exciting or as I expected a monster film to be, and I didn't enjoy it as much. And so yeah, I
I for, I forget that you watched this.
yeah, no, I did. You said it. Yeah, I also by this point realized that I don't really care for Bong Joon-ho's endings to his films. So, uh, yeah, that's what I gotta say about this one. I
Yeah,
enjoyed the
because
first third when it was what I thought it would be. I can enjoy aspects of the rest of the film, but like as a whole, I don't know. I didn't love the full thing.
you've also seen Parasite and Snowpiercer as well, right? And those
Yes.
endings rubbed you a little wrong way as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I keep forgetting that you saw it. But what? Since I try to ask Jacob out, maybe I'll try to ask you, and maybe I'll run up a wall again. What do you think about like that thought I about like because it seems like people love Train to Busan because it seems something fresh in the zombie genre. Was Do you feel like this might have been a case with this movie or not?
I no, I didn't think
No.
so.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be really curious to see like why people really like this movie. Also, like the kinds of audiences, because I feel like a lot of people are still very partial to Memories of Murder, even with Parasite being released.
I think that's kind of a like with the Prestige when with Nolan, where it's kind of a lesser scene. So it's a way to be like, oh, I know this director's work because I know one of their more obscure ones. But yeah, before Parasite came out, it was almost impossible to find Memories of Murder in the US. So I think that also has a bit to do with it
Mm,
as to why The Host was sort of the one that everyone knew.
that makes sense.
Because I think The Host was the first one to get like a release in the US that people were able to see easily.
At the very least, I have a Blu-ray release from like 2012 or 13.
Okay, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I think the same with Mother. I think also had a distribution from Mongolia. So yeah, yeah, it's very interesting to realize that about Memories of Murder. That wasn't as much the case, probably. Wow,
Yeah, I had to go to like a sketchy website when I watched it before Parasite because it was just not available in the US.
that's nuts.
Yeah. Well, moving on to my number two, I have the film Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Yes, the second of the Pirates trilogy.
Speaking
This
of
one,
monster movies,
speaking of monster films, this is like one of those films that's part of like the classic thing you expect from a sequel. Higher budget, more locales, more weird looking villains, just a lot of like stuff going on. And it is a lot of fun. Here we have like a humongous advancement in the technology of computer generated imagery with Davy Jones and his other fish people looking phenomenal even till this day. Looks a lot
oh yeah,
better than some other stuff we have going on still. Just they 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 I don't know. They did stuff. I can't
it
think.
was like yeah, they worked really closely with the visual effects artists to like make it possible.
Yeah, it's really weird how when I watch this film, like along for a long time, I never noticed that Davy Jones was like this computer generated thing. It's like, oh yeah, Davy Jones, the Squid Guy. Never thought about why he was a Squid Guy. It was just like a normal thing, and then you learn about the technology. It's like, oh wait, yeah, that's actually really good that I didn't even notice it. Okay, interesting. Uh I think this is starting to be the point of the franchise where people were noticing that Jack Sparrow was becoming more of like a lead character when he should be more of a side character. I didn't care about that. I love a lot of this either way. You have like fun piratey tropes. You got like the Kraken. That was a cool thing. You got stuff here and there, more personal journey. Uh, Elizabeth getting to be less of a damsel, doing more stuff. Uh, yeah, just stuff that I enjoy. Looks cool. Lots of fun, memeable stuff. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, this is it's not nearly as good as the first film.
It's
Like the
yeah, this
first
one is
one,
not as standalone as the first
yeah.
one.
The first one you can just kind of show to pretty much anyone and they will have a good time. This one is still quite fun. Um but yeah, there's just something missing there that I'm not quite sure what it is. It still has a lot of stuff that I love though. Like the action set pieces, the stuff on the
Mhm.
island with like the giant wheel, that is just
Yeah, uh,
phenomenal.
so
It
much
is
fun.
yeah. And I mean Gore Verbinski is such a good visual director. Just like the way things look, and as you were saying, Davy Jones, the CG is really good. The sets are really good. The costumes, everything, just like the lighting is so good. Um, this one is missing Barbosa, who is my favorite Pirates character, so that was a little bit of a disappointment.
I
But
mean, understandable. You wouldn't think he'd
yeah,
be in this film, considering how the
no,
last one ended. Of course.
yep. But no, this is. I do need to give the whole franchise a rewatch at some point. Because yeah, there is so much I love, even about. I guess I shouldn't say even about the ones that I dislike, because the fifth one does not have much redeeming quality to it. But this one
No.
still has a lot to love.
Yeah. No. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
You haven't
John.
seen it.
Yeah, John showed me the first one. I think after we recorded that year's, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I was really surprised. Definitely don't have nostalgia towards it like many people do, but I really enjoyed it. And I think I probably initially gave it 3.5 stars. I probably bumped it up to 4 because I'm like, it's enjoyable. But yeah, haven't gotten around to this one yet. I think just the more I hear about the trilogy as a whole, like how solid the trilogy is, because again, I'm hearing a lot of people say the first one's the best, but still just how good the trilogy is. It kind of makes me more inclined to see 2 and 3 at some point. Definitely not as inclined to see 4 and 5.
That's
Um,
definitely fair.
yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
um, call me interested.
All right. And before we move on to our number one, so why don't we talk about some honorable mentions?
Yeah, my honorable mentions this year are, in different circumstances, pretty much any of these could have made my top five. In fact, some of them were in my top five until I swapped around for stuff that I was more interested in talking about. But yeah, I love a lot of films from this year. First up, I have Bug. I put these in alphabetical order, not ranked order. Um, Bug, this is directed by William Friedkin, based on the play by Tracy Letts, who famous playwright, August Osage County. I know him for playing the dad in Lady Bird. He's also an actor. But yeah, this is this really Bug is this striking portrayal of psychosis and how easy it is for people experiencing emotional trauma to get wrapped up in conspiracy theories. It's a very like psychologically disturbing film that got an undeserved F cinema score. It was mismarketed as more of like a Saw ripoff, where it isn't that. This is more thoughtful, more nuanced, but still very disturbing. Um, but yeah, it is really worth watching if you are interested in cults or conspiracy theories, or just what makes people believe these strange ideas and how that can tie into grief and trauma. And yeah, it's just very fascinating. A difficult film, but a rewarding one. um, then I have The Devil Wears Prada, directed by David Frankel and based on the novel by Lauren Weisberger. And it's about the experiences of an assistant to a prominent fashion magazine editor who is definitely not supposed to be Anna Wintour. Um, yeah, this is just, it's fun. It's funny. It has some really good performances. Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, Mark Strong, or no, that's not who it is. It's what's his name? Stanley Tucci. I get them mixed up for some reason. They're
They
both
both
bald.
look alike though,
They're both bald.
and they
Anyway,
often wear glasses. Yeah.
they do. Yeah. Mark Strong plays this character in the live action Disney Cruella movie, which is very much inspired by Devil Wears Prada. Anyway, yeah, this thing kind of falls apart in the second half, but it's still just a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Um, then we have Nancy Meyers' The Holiday, which is about an editor in LA and a writer in England decide to swap houses for the Christmas holiday, and romance ensues. And it's just this really cozy rom com from one of the masters of the genre. Nancy Meyer just really knows what she's doing. And this is just her in full force. I watched this with some friends last Christmas and had a great time. Then I have a Korean film. I do occasionally watch Korean films. This is Park Chan Wook's I'm a Cyborg, but That's Okay. And it is a comedy romance set inside of a psychiatric hospital. If you've seen the first episode of the X-Men adjacent TV show Legion, this
Mm.
is that. It was very fun to watch. As a huge fan of, especially that first episode of Legion, watching this, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that there was a movie that is just this plot. Different directions that it takes things, but yeah, just very, very fun. Then I have, probably controversially, Lady in the Water, the M. Night Shyamalan film. This is one of my favorites of his. It's weird. It has a mismatched tone, nonsensical lore, lots of strange characters, and I still found myself emotionally invested in it. Um, yeah, just I like it. I know a lot of people hate it, but I love it. Um, then I have Notes on a Scandal, directed by Richard Eyre, based on the novel by Zoe Heller. And this one follows Judy Dench, who plays an older school teacher who is obsessed with her younger coworker, played by Kate Blanchett. And the Judy Dench character discovers that her coworker is sleeping with one of the underage students, and melodrama ensues. It's similar in tone to May December, if anyone has seen that one from a couple years ago. I kind of preferred this one because it's a little bit punchier, though it does lack some of the nuance in dealing with the victim's perspective. This one is more focused on the Judy Dench and Kate Blanchett relationship, um, and sort of the obsession going on there. And then I have Paprika, which is, of course, directed by Satoshi Kon. This is a legendary anime film that is about dreams and memory and identity, very mind bending. It's kind of impossible to describe, so I won't even try. It's at times beautiful, at times terrifying, and surprisingly heartfelt throughout. John, I think you might get something from watching this one.
Probably.
I think there might be something there for you. I don't know. I don't know how you would feel about it. And then last up, I have yeah. Last up, I have
Yeah.
Short Bus, which is directed by John Cameron Mitchell. If you are familiar with this film via Reputation, just know that the film is so much more than just that. Um, it follows various couples in New York who try and work through relationship issues, and it is a surprisingly heartfelt story. It is also incredibly explicit. Do not watch this unless you know what you are getting into. Um, I won't. I can't even like hint at what goes on in this movie without on this podcast. But yeah, no, it is. If that is a if you can handle the more explicit stuff, this is a very heartfelt movie.
The only movie I've seen on this list is The Devil Wears Prada. I watched this movie when I wasn't enjoying my job. I gotta say, I'm still at the same job and I'm enjoying it so much more. But yeah. It- so I actually, it took me 3 sittings to watch The Devil Wears Prada because it stressed me out so much. I'm willing to give it a shot in the future. But so I don't necessarily want to say I hate this movie because maybe I won't. I don't know.
Yeah, it is definitely it hits close to home if you are working the kind of job that has any similarities with what is going on in the film.
I have not seen anything here, so yeah.
My honorable mentions. Whoa. Um, I mentioned I like Will Ferrell, so Talladega Nights. I don't recall too much. It kind of is just more like Will Ferrell. Boom. I don't think I was incredibly in love with the movie, but Will Ferrell. Woo. I put on this list 3 movies that were circulated within the Christian market um, that I watched before like getting into movies. The Ultimate Gift, Facing Giants, and Love's Abiding Joy. Um, I think Facing Giants is probably the more well known out of those. Football movie. Yeah, I'd seen Facing Giants multiple times, and I'm tired of it more because I've seen it multiple times than me having opinions on it. I honestly, with all these movies, I don't really have that strong of an opinion. Um, I I'm not necessarily going to say they're nostalgic for me necessarily, because I think like the most recent of these I had seen was The Ultimate Gift. I think I saw it for my second time a few years ago, um, and I didn't necessarily like love it, but like it's nostalgic because it's part of my childhood. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, Facing Giants. My brother is a huge football fan, so we saw Facing Giants a lot. So yeah, An Ultimate Gift is a movie as well. Love's Abiding Joy. There's this series called Love Comes Softly, and I honestly I definitely know I saw the one actually called Love Comes Softly. My parents watched a handful of these movies, and I joined them for a handful of these movies. And actually, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not 100% sure if Love's Abiding Joy is one of the ones I've seen or not, but I think I have. Not sure, but I think it also might have stood out from all of them to some degree. I don't know why. I feel like as I was like looking at the ones on Letterboxd, I thought I saw the first 3, and then thinking about it, I'm like, wait, I'm not sure if I saw the third one, but I think I saw the fourth one, and I think this is fourth one. I don't know. I'm just talking about what I have seen. There are a few other 2006 movies I have seen that I I don't know why I probably didn't decide to feature, but yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to mention like kind of where I came from a little bit um, before I got into movies, and so Ultimate Gift, Facing Giants, Loves Abiding Joy are part of my history. I think also like I'm still learning about stories and what makes stories good, and so I think a lot of people are able to like dissect these movies like, oh, why they could be better. Me, I think because of like more that history for me, it's a little harder for me to be able to dig a little deeper. I bet there's enough essays out there about Facing the Giants, and I've seen inklings of them here and there. Um, so if, um, but I guess for me, I'd just be like, this is just another movie from my childhood that I'm probably just not in love with, and that's probably just as strong as my feelings go for them.
Yeah, I have definitely seen The Ultimate Gift and Facing the Giants. I think I only saw either of those like once as a kid, so I don't really have much to say on those. The Ultimate Gift was a big movie where John and I were in high school, though. Um,
It
I think
was.
we watched it in high school.
We did.
Well, because because part of it takes place in Ecuador, so
But are you sure I was there for that?
yeah, I'm sure we watched it at some point in school. I don't know
I don't
if that was before you were there or
I don't know. I don't remember this thing at all. I
It was
don't.
it was in
actually
the room where we took all of the like AP exams. But anyway, that doesn't matter.
I thought it
Um,
was wild because I was looking at the reviews for Ultimate Gift because I was like, why is this, not favorably
yeah,
looked
yeah.
upon? Um, and then I was completely blindsided because I completely forgot about the Ecuador thing, which I thought was also interesting. Like when I watched it a second time, like, kind of with a little more like reassessing that as, a 20-year-old compared to like a 12-year-old. So I
Yeah.
thought that part was interesting to reassess it. Um, but then, yeah, I had completely forgotten about it. I saw some of his reviews, and one of them was like, for 20 minutes, it turns into like Apocalypse Now Redux or something, and it just goes back to normal. I'm like, yeah, I did. Dang.
Oh,
Jay, at what
yeah.
context would we have seen this?
I
Well,
have
sorry, I
absolutely no
gotta
idea.
say, it was kind of funny reading some reviews. A handful of them also said, "I saw this movie in class." I'm like, why were people watching this in class?
I have no idea why we would have watched it. I just remember watching it for school at some
I don't.
point.
I don't know. I don't think I was there for that. Either it was before my time, or maybe I took a sick day or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And yeah,
Actually,
oh yeah, go ahead.
honestly, it almost makes me wish I included a couple more movies just to throw in there. Like, I might as well just mention them. Why not? Just other movies I had seen. Um, like I also saw another movie circulating around the Christian market called Amazing Grace. I
Oh yeah.
saw that
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago. I don't remember anything about it. Except the fact that the British accents were so hard for me. Um, and my dad is kind of like anti subtitles, and I was watching it alone. I've always loved subtitles, and I was telling my dad I can't understand a thing they're saying. So halfway through the movie, I was able to turn on the subtitles, but by that point, like I was already uninvested enough that the subtitles couldn't really save the movie from me. I don't know what the reception of that movie is. I don't care
I think it's
enough,
seen generally favorably. Yeah.
and
That
also has Cumberbatch. Benedict
oh,
Cumberbatch
okay.
is in the
Yeah.
movie,
I knew
which is
that Ian Griffond, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but Mr. Fantastic from the
oh
2004
really?
Fantastic Four is the lead.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. Yeah, and
It's about
then
like the abolition of slavery in England
yeah,
in
I
in
think
1791.
specifically the character was John Newton. Oh no, that's who wrote Amazing Grace. William Wilberforce.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
is it? title character. I did not know it was the same actor. Huh. Interesting. I think out of like the movies I just mentioned, probably that'd be the one I'm most interested to revisit because again, that seems to have a more favorable reaction
Yeah.
towards. Though I can't lie, I'd be if there's any Love Comes Softly movie I want to rewatch, it might be Love's Abiding Joy. And then also another movie, The Nativity Story. I saw that
Oh,
15 years ago. Just don't remember anything except the fact that the wise men arrived to see Jesus before the shepherds did. And then also, I didn't know until like a year ago, Oscar Isaac's in the movie as I
yes,
think,
Oscar Isaac. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I obviously that meant nothing to me 15 years ago. Um, yeah.
And looks like Keisha Castle Hughes of the Whale Rider, which I really enjoyed. And it is directed by Catherine Hardwicke, director of Twilight, the first Twilight.
Really?
Yes.
That's nuts. Yeah, that one I kind of want to like. I don't know if I'm like willing to rewatch it, but like, how did this movie get made? Is kind of more or less my question. And then I guess lastly, I'll throw in there a movie I saw for the first time a little over a year ago, Christmas Do Over. It Dover, but a lot of my friends like to say Doover. Um, that movie. I have a friend who calls it the worst movie ever, and so he'll gather up his friends every Christmas to watch it, and either it'll be like a straight watch through, or they'll pause it every so often to laugh at random things. So I was there for one of those. I don't see it as the worst movie ever because there are movies I absolutely hate. Specifically, Lucy's my least favorite movie, and like those are movies I could cry about. So Christmas Dover or Do Over is I just feel more indifferent about. I'm just like, oh yeah, that wasn't like the best movie, but like I enjoyed it to a degree, like
Yeah.
how you'd probably enjoy like a 2-star esque movie, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I figured like these are just movies I've seen. So
Yeah.
from 2006, that's all it is.
I don't think I purposefully have ever seen any of these films. If I had seen anything of them, it's because like my family was watching them in the living room, and I just happened like to walk in on something. Uh, Definitely the love films. I know that they've watched several of those things. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
my parents
whatever.
had a bunch of the DVDs.
Yeah,
I think I watched the first couple, but I don't remember much about them.
I've
they
never watched them. I don't care
like I
about
was even
love.
talking to my dad about them like a year ago, and he's like, "Yeah, they're cheesy, but I enjoy them," which I guess maybe I'm like, I haven't talked like movies with my dad a lot, so and I like they were actually like rewatching them because like
Okay.
then after like these core movies they released like a few prequels. And I guess they decided to watch those prequels. It was so funny because like my one of my sisters, she's really dove into like stories and storytelling, and she's just really smart. Like she's like she's basically like self-taught. It's so like so cool like talking to her just to see how much she's grown. Because again, like kind of growing up, I grew up sheltered, and like John's seen my progression with like watching movies, but I feel like there's so much I have to learn, but also I've not taken a lot of time like to study at the same time. And so there's a lot of me that kind of still feels like I'm at a surface level. But my sister, I think it was really like reading Narnia and Lord of the Rings, and obviously she's a fan of Lewis and Tolkien as a result. But she really like dove herself into like learning stories. But then my parents are watching these movies and kind of make it like a family movie night thing, and then my sister's kind of like rolling over in her seat watching these basic movies. So yeah, and again, like I kind of said, there's one or two of these movies that for some reason there's some iconography of it that make me curious to rewatch, but also based off my sister's reaction of her seeing it for her first time, I don't know if I want to. I don't know. It's so weird. But like I definitely know like I like love stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially as it relates to like the watching a handful of, like those Korean things. So I'm like, are they actually just cheesy or are they fine or are they bad? And so I feel like now I have this weird heightened sense of curiosity of how I would perceive them today. I can't lie.
Well, moving on to my honorable mentions. We start off with Zack Snyder's 300. So this is Zack Snyder's revision or vision film based on the 300 graphic novel series. Uh, I think this is like the first of like the comic book films that he's a part of, or like one of the first.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he did. This is his second film, I think.
yeah, it's one of those. But yeah, this one visually he perfectly captures a lot of like the style of the story. It's really cool and how it looks. Story, the story is whatever. You know, Snyder's never been the best at story. But this is just like pulling from the graphic novel, and the basic elements of that are like there, and they look really cool. And the action's pretty cool. I like the visual aspect of it. It's a very unique looking film, color grade wise. Um, like the way they do shadows is like very comic booky, and I really appreciate. If there's one thing I appreciate about Snyder is just the way he makes things look. Anything else, uh, not the best. But those are like discussions for completely different things. So yeah, for this one at least, he did a really solid job that put his name on the map. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
next up, I have a animated film called Teen Titans: Trouble in Tokyo. This is kind of like the Teen Titans TV show ended, and then they had this film, and the film kind of like it's just like another adventure. It's all right. Then we have Superman Returns, which was directed by
Directed by Brian Singer.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Bryan Singer. This one is a film. It is. It's a weird one.
Arguably.
Yeah, it is. See, just based upon what it is, like kind of like a legacy sequel to Superman, kind of set in the Christopher Reeves world. After the second film, forgetting about the other films, I it's weird. It's trying to be part of that, but like nothing really works or matches. Like the time period doesn't match, the tones don't match, the costume doesn't match. None of the stuff works, or even the character traits work. Um, but like it's cool to see a Superman film after like I don't know, so many years without a film with the character. Brandon Ruth, I think, does a really good job at trying to do Christopher Reeve, but that could also just be a negative because like he's trying to be someone else's performance while not really being himself. Uh, there are some cool aspects to this film, but like it's kind of boring, even visually. It's kind of muted color palettes, and it's just not the most interesting to look at as opposed to other stuff. But it is a film. Um, but it, you know, the same year this film came out, we also had Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. Uh, so Richard Donner, when he made the first Superman, he made like the first two at the same time, but then something happened in the middle of like making the second one where he had to leave the project and someone else took over, and like Marlon Brando was supposed to return to the second one, but he wanted a lot of money and they the studio didn't want to pay him, so he was completely cut from the second film. And so this Richard Donner cut is like everything that he had done for his original version of the film, including the Marlon Brando stuff, which apparently people didn't know anything about that until this film came out. So yeah, I think it's the better film in that thematically it works better with the first film than what the eventual second film did. Then we have Pixar's Cars. I like Cars. It's a simple underdog story and stuff about small town America, whatever. Yeah, Cars, fun, whatever. Then we have the Barbie Diaries. Yeah, yeah, the Barbie Diaries. Not the best Barbie film, but I enjoy ironically. High School Musical, nostalgic stuff. That and Barbie, we've done podcasts, episodes on binging Barbie, so go check those out. And lastly, we have Night in the Museum, which was, yeah, that there was a film that I liked when I was younger. As sequels came out, I think I liked a bit less. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, 300, as you said, good fit for Snyder. Lots of violence, lots of homoeroticism, lots of glorification of power as a concept. All things Snyder is explores a lot in his work. Um, Definitely, like the comic book it is based off of, and Frank Miller, just as a creator in general, has some odd takes on politics. We'll leave it at that. That do make it into the movie, but no, it is like the kind of film that Snyder should be making. Superman Returns, I have seen that. I do need to revisit it. Because for as bad of a person as Bryan Singer is, I do like his X-Men movies. So I am curious to see what Superman Returns is with more perspective. Um, Cars, one of my less favorite Pixar movies, but it's fine. It's not as bad as Cars 2. So that's something. Barbie Diaries is a solid Mean Girls ripoff with terrible animation, just the worst animation you have ever seen. Yeah, High School Musical. We have an episode on that. And Night at the Museum, I have not seen since I was a kid, so I can't really comment on it.
Anything from
Um,
you?
yeah, I have a little something. Cars. So, my brother I mentioned who likes Facing Giants had a fascination with the movie Cars, but us being sheltered. Now, I did grow up watching Wally and Up, um, but Cars didn't make the cut. Um, and it wasn't just my parents never got on it. Actually, we did receive a copy of Cars some 5 years later, but which my parents watched and they enjoyed, and they didn't have anything against. But I just never really got around to. I bet my brother's seen it at some point. I don't know. But yeah, he was fascinated by the movie Cars without seeing it. But um, so I saw Wally in 2009 and Up, probably ended 2009 too, sometime 2010. Come 2011, we were at an American embassy in South Korea, and we're doing embassy stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, you guys know.
yeah. We know.
So there's obviously a little area for the kids. And what movie do they happen to be playing? Cars. So arguably, I saw the first half of Cars. However, there's a catch. There was no sound. I saw the first half of Cars with no sound. So that's my story.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. I feel like it probably does work just visually. I mean, it is an animated film, so those tend to work better just on visuals.
I
When's the
don't know
last time you
when.
seen it, Jay?
A long time ago. It has
Watch it
been
again.
several years.
I will.
No, I don't think I will.
I don't know when, but there was some time I read some like storybook adaptation of Cars, with pictures and all. I don't know if it was prior or after, but regardless, um, I know the concept of the story at the very least, to the point that I could remember visuals from the movie, and it makes sense. And again, I don't know the order, but like what I did see isn't fully lost on me, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of directors with questionable personal histories, that's John Lasseter. Yeah. Anyway, not important. Also, okay, this is a complete non sequitur, but Cars is like one of the 5 highest grossing media franchises, including merchandise.
It's incredible,
It's like
honestly.
Star Wars and Pokemon and Disney princesses and Cars.
That's insane.
Because it's just Cars, so it's
Yeah,
cars with eyes. So it's like
kind of just
you
makes sense.
you don't even need to know the movies to get the toys from grandparents.
Yep.
Honestly, we had a toy of King,
Okay,
and I
yeah,
think it was because my dad liked like the original car or whatever it was based
yeah.
off of. Yeah.
King who?
Number
Anyway,
23.
anyway, why don't we talk about our number ones?
Yeah. So my number one is a kind of underseen film that I don't even know how I found this, but it's called Blood Tea and Red String. This is directed by Christian Chevesky. I don't know how to pronounce it. I was going to look it up, but then I forgot. It is about a trio of rats who commission a family of creatures. They're officially called the creatures who dwell under the oak. So they're just like fantasy creatures that have been made up for the film. But they commission these creatures to make a doll of a woman for them. And the creatures make the doll, but decide that they want to keep it and return the money. And then the rats come in the night and steal the doll. So the creatures have to go on a quest to get the doll back. And I love stop motion animation. It is one of my favorite mediums, just inherently. And this is such an incredible example of what the medium is capable of. It's this mix of like creepy yet beautiful that you can only really get from stop motion. This like it's unnerving, but it's also there's something very compelling about it. This was animated over 13 years by the director. She was basically the only one working on this. If you go to Letterboxd, it is her name is all of the credits except for the score, and then some of the acting performances. This doesn't have dialogue though, but it has this like very it has like the fairy tale logic thing of like there are rules to this world and you don't necessarily know the rules, but you feel as things are happening like, oh yeah, that I guess that makes sense within the rules that have been set up here. um and it's done entirely without dialogue, which is always really fun. um yeah, it's phenomenal. It's has this like gorgeous and very haunting musical score, just so good. I loved it while I was watching it, and then thinking back on it, it's just such a well designed film. And the director is currently working on a second feature that I am excited for. I don't know when it is coming out, but I am very much looking forward to it.
I have not seen or heard anything about this, so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not surprising for this one. This one is not widely seen or known of.
Added to my watch list, of course.
All right.
Time. This is from the director I was talking about last time. I think it was last time.
Of the
The movie
bow?
The Bow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gim Duck. Um, this one worked a lot more for me, but also like it's kind of just further. I feel like you know, seeing another entry from the director, it's just another like mystical entry to a degree. Yeah, this so this woman is convinced that her boyfriend, like, I forget specifically, maybe a mixture of like doesn't love her / doesn't find her attractive anymore, and so she gets face plastic surgery, or to completely redo her face, and for her face to heal, she's gone for like 6 months, and then she reconnects with him, but like doesn't tell him who she is, basically. And I forgive me for saying so much because it is one of those slow burn movies, but like that is the concept of the movie. I just it's just so fascinating. Like I feel like I've been very speechless about all the movies I've talked about today. I really apologize, but this one I'm just kind of just like amazed and blown away by it. It's haunting, it's stunning, it's striking. Yeah, I feel like maybe people today would kind of call it the substance of a type. Um,
Okay.
and I say the substance as it relates to like that idea of like self beauty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, not there are definitely some horrifying images. Basically, the doctor tries to convince her not to do plastic surgery and shows her videos of the process.
Oh.
Yeah, those are horrifying images.
Oh yeah.
So that's basically as horrifying necessarily as the video gets, not necessarily like the substance as it like revels in the body horror throughout the movie kind of thing. Um, but I don't know. And obviously this has a more romantic bent, as from what I'm aware. The substance isn't focused on
Oh no,
the
not at all.
romantics.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of just like you know struck by this movie. I can't explain it. I hope one day I could be able to put my words, put my thoughts into words better in the future as relates to this movie and movies in general. Yeah, I really really like this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
definitely intrigued with the way you described it.
Yeah.
you know me, neither seen nor heard of it. So
Yes.
yeah,
We know you.
you know you. Speaking of me, uh, moving on to my number one is the film Rocky Balboa. Now, last year I watched through the Rocky franchise for the first time. Pretty much last year also I went through a bunch of Stallone films in general. And I think looking through these films, the Rocky films, through the lens of Stallone's career, I think that they're like pretty much a better experience because the Rocky films specifically are just like a reflection of Stallone's entire career. The first one was about this like nobody who comes to stardom, which is kind of how Stallone was with his film. Second one is like him dealing with the fame. Third one is like the third and fourth ones are like during the period where like he's known as like the action star going against Schwarzenegger. So like there's a lot of like over the top action and just all about the action and such. Um, and then we get to this point, and this is a point in his career in the 2000s where he's very much past his prime. He's an old person. He's not selling tickets anymore. And so here he decides to like make this film to say it's like, hey, I still have like this last thing in me. Don't count me out. And so he makes this film, and it is one of the best in the Rocky franchises out there. So here we see this very old Rocky who just feels like he wants to fight one last time in order to get like his emotions in order, and it's dealing with him being old and not really able to move on from this life, and so it's like a last hurrah for this character. Really well done, really nice and emotional. Visually, it's interesting. Um, yeah, it's a solid ending to the Rocky films until we get to Creed, where you know he continues doing whatever.
Yeah, Creed is the only of the Rocky films that I have seen. So, and I think I saw like bits and pieces of the fourth one on a TV while I was at a restaurant once, but I don't really count that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, haven't seen anything Rocky. So
Okay, so why don't we sour the mood with our least favorite films?
Yeah. So my least favorite is Saw 3. Um Usually when I watch something disturbing, I can either process or forget it pretty quickly. Stuff doesn't stick with me long for the most part, or I'm able to like understand it and find emotional peace with it. This one has part of the film that has stuck with me for years that still disturbs me. Um, and the problem is, I actually really like half of this movie because half of this movie is about a doctor who um, has been kidnapped by Jigsaw and is being forced to keep him alive as he's dying from terminal cancer. Sort of, he's in the last hours of his life and she's trying to keep him alive. And it's this like ethical conundrum of she knows this guy is a serial killer, but she is a doctor and she is like supposed to do no harm. So like the ethical dilemma is so good. And there's lots of character drama. There's sort of these three characters in this situation that's just taking place in like this one location. And it's just so good. And then the other half of the movie is just like a regular Saw movie that I found mostly uncompelling. And that's the part that also has like the stuff that got to me. So it's like, yeah, there's one half of the movie that I like, one half of the movie that just doesn't work for me. Um, with the first two Saw movies, I found that the traps were scarier in concept than in action. Like when you get the over edited, jumpy, corny 2000s editing in there, it stops being scary. Um, but not so much with this one. This one got under my skin. I can't really say it's a bad movie because like if you're looking for a Saw movie, that might be what you're looking for. But yeah, this is one of my least favorite movies that I have ever seen, just in terms of my experience watching it.
yeah, I haven't seen anything Saw yet.
Yeah, I don't want to see anything Saw, so
The,
yeah.
the first one is less intense than you would think. It's the
I
second
think I
one
want to
in the
get the first
franchise.
one at some point.
Yeah. The it's the thing with horror franchises where the thing it is known for doesn't actually start being the focus of it until the sequels.
Hmm.
The first one, the traps are very like de-emphasized. It's more about the psychological thriller going on.
All right, moving
Yeah.
on.
What I'm putting at my bottom is She's the Man. Um, I started this movie. Um, I personally think it was June 9th, 2023. I had heard of a movie called She's All That. I think due to the Addison Rae remake, and I think the premise seemed interesting enough. So I was like, yeah, maybe one day I'll watch Sh- She's All That, or He's All That. I don't know which is which because they gender swapped it for Addison Rae's. I don't know which is which. Anyways, She's All That, He's All That. Regardless, but for someone who's not that familiar with um She's All That or She's the Man, mentally I did see a difference I also didn't necessarily have iconography for me to differentiate one from the other. And I didn't do research because I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. I did not. I started She's the Man, and I was struggling. I cringed so hard. I could not deal with the situations that were going on. So basically, I actually finished this movie um, a few days ago. So I don't, and I didn't rewatch the first 30 minutes, so I don't remember the first 30 minutes that well. But basically, the core of it is a girl dresses as a guy and goes to, like lives in a dorm as a guy. Um, I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
It's an adaptation of the Twelfth Night, the Shakespeare play, right?
I think I've heard Shakespeare thrown out there.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know my Shakespeare. I bet I'd probably enjoy the Shakespeare thing more because I think it's one thing for a thing to be a concept, it's another thing for a concept to be executed. And I would like to argue that a lot of it for this movie is its execution. As much as I don't love the concept, I just especially don't like its execution. And I just don't, I didn't enjoy it. Maybe I'd take a different rom com from 2006 and have more fun with that, but I can't take that style for this concept. I just, yeah, just didn't enjoy it. So finally, like a few days ago, I was like, you know what? My roommate's probably going to come home soon, and I'm not in the mood to pause a movie when he, or in a general sense, I don't necessarily want to pause a movie. But this movie I could pause. I put a 2-year pause on this movie, you know? I could definitely pause this movie when he comes home. So that's what I did. And then actually, when I restarted it around that 30-minute mark, there were actually a few things that I kind of enjoyed, like made me laugh, kind of enjoyed. And then, but it was still like hard. And then it kind of went a little more full back into like what I couldn't love. In a weird sense, I don't feel as antagonistic about this movie after finishing it. Maybe because I let the movie sit with me for 2 years and kind of just be like, it is what it is, you know. But I personally just don't really enjoy the experience of this movie. Maybe this exact same movie could be portrayed differently, and maybe I'd enjoy that more. I don't know. All I know is that I just don't really enjoy the experience of this movie. So obviously, I'm not trying to come down on people who enjoy this movie. If you enjoy it, awesome. I don't.
yeah. I haven't seen this one. I have a friend who has tried to organize a watch party of this. I think of this one actually. Until you mentioned it, I was not aware that She's All That and She's the Man were separate. I just kind of
Yeah,
conflated them in my head as well. So I don't know if it's these that he was trying to get us to watch or something else. But yeah, I will eventually probably get around to seeing this one.
I would imagine watching it with people who enjoy it might be more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Watching it alone, rough.
Yeah, you know me. I haven't seen it, so yeah.
I thought they would have made you watch this in school or something. That makes no sense, but also neither does The Ultimate Gift. So
No. Well, moving on
I
to my.
want to know why. Why were people watching Ultimate Gift in school? I need to know.
Well, moving on to my least favorite film of the year. It is the Disney straight to DVD sequel films, The Fox and the Hound 2, that sequel prequel thing.
Oh, it's a prequel. Oh,
It's a prequel sequel, you know.
okay.
It's like takes place in the middle of the first film where honestly it doesn't match at all. Like this makes no sense in the timeline of The Fox and the Hound. You know what? Fox and the Hound. Why did they need a sequel? Why did they need a prequel? Who thought this was a good idea? Do you know what I think? I think that the people making this were making a completely different film. And then Disney told them, "Hey, I like what you're doing, but make it a Fox and Hound film. And so they kind of shoehorned Fox and Hound into this thing. Because this film, despite the title, is actually about a country band sung by
Oh,
dogs. And it has like a bunch of like country celebrities, country singers. One of them is Jeff
yeah.
Foxworthy. That's the only name that I am familiar with. But those people who do stuff like that. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but like country hoedown stuff. Anyway, that stuff, they're doing the song, and then I guess one of the fox or hound is actually like a good singer or something, and so there's this whole drama about, oh no, if you go on this thing, then we'll be friends or whatever. Anyway, it's not good. It's by the numbers. It's so boring. Music stuff, that's fun. Do you know what I like the least about this film? Is that they put so much effort into the animation. The animation is actually good. It's actually there's quality, and it's in such a worthless film that I hate it. I hate it. Why did they put so much effort in this film? I don't know why. The Disney straight to DVD sequels choose the weirdest projects to put their effort into, and this was one of those. I wouldn't recommend this one at all. I don't really even care about the first Fox and the Hound. This one I like even less. So, yeah. If you like country music and you like watching dogs sing country music, then watch this, I guess. But, yeah, there you go. Any y'all seen this?
No, no, I haven't seen either the Fox nor the Hound.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have going on for this month. We got through our 2006 stuff. It is a year films came out. And next year, more films will have come out. And we'll talk about that next month. Until then, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.